Hi guys. Hello, welcome. Welcome to it. So making sure we're coming out clear. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're watching from. Welcome to this. Okay, very brief one we're going to have right now. Very, very brief one. We're not going to take much of your time. So while you are joining, share the video. If you're watching on YouTube, click the like button for the algorithm to continue the sharing. If you are watching on Facebook, kindly share the video and let others in. Share the video and let others in. If you are watching on YouTube, like the video for the algorithm to continue the sharing. You can as well share the video from YouTube as we proceed. Okay, today we are going to be talking about the outcome of summarizing basically the outcome of the outing of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu's and the outcome of the court proceedings. That's what we're going to talk about. And we are going to touch on the intricacies of the witness who is actually masked or masked witness and their plans to attribute activities of Eberima in Finland to Nnamdi Kanu's case. We're going to talk about it and we're going to actually, dig deep to know what the law says about liabilities, about one's actions, and about leadership positions in Nigeria. Because it is quite important for us to understand the reason why Nnamdi Kanu is suffering and the reason why they are doing everything they can to make sure that they jail him. Because that is everything that they are doing, the plans of the Nigeria state, because Nnamdi Kanu is a problem to Nigeria's status quo, which does not allow you or enable you to breathe or to take part in the economic and the on the economic benefit that is coming out of the Nigeria as a country. So, because Nnamdi Kanu is the only man who shook the status quo and opened the eyes of the people to see exactly what is going on in Nigeria and what their faith look like. That's why they are doing everything they can to make sure that they attribute the crime of everybody. If possible, they also want to attribute the crime of Fulani headsmen to Nnamdi Kanu. Remember, they claim IPOB was actually proscribed, but there is no legal entity that will give account of IPOB prescription, which was in the past. But the Fulani headsmen, which they call bandit, was proscribed. There is no Nigeria news that called them proscribed because I think in 2022, this that judgment was passed to see Fulani headsmen or the so-called bandits as terrorists, and then it didn't actually go market at all. But the activities of IPOB has been scrutinized, is always been scrutinized to know what they will use to actually attribute to Nnamdi Kanu and they make him face consequences of someone else's action, even though they are not connected to him. So let's actually talk about it. It is important for us to understand what the law says in that regard. That is exactly what I am actually going to talk about. Secondly, it is important for you to also know that what Nnamdi Kanu was fighting was basically for everybody to take part in the resources, in the benefit that is coming out of the Nigeria, which is supposed to be rightfully your own, it is supposed to be your own right to benefit from everything that is you own. That's why when the system kicked back and he noticed that the only solution to this problem, because the system that is already established, you cannot start actually amending the system because it is difficult. There is already bureaucracy within the system. There is already, all this bureaucracy of godfatherism within the system. So it is difficult for you to alter the system. So the only thing you need to do for you to win around the system is disintegration of the system. If a foundation is built not on a solid rock or solid ground, you cannot build on top of the foundation. You have to demolish, abort, and you start afresh. So he noticed that the only solution to this conundrum that all of us are into is basically to disintegrate the system and we start afresh. That is the problem of those bureaucrats. Because they notice that immediately when you disintegrate the system, they are, their grip to the to the authorities of Nigeria is already nullified. Their power that they have on the system is nullified automatically. So that's why they wouldn't want any alteration to the system or disintegration of the system, that people may be free. So that is the reason why you see them fighting back in every means possible. That's why the court that was established in 2015 is still, there is still on, they have been delaying it to an extent that they try to actually, you know, unalive Nnamdi Kanu to make sure that the case work against him, because the only thing they are looking for, especially the APC-led government, is basically to make sure that the case work against him, so that there will never be a person who will rise up in his capacity to challenge that system that benefits those who controls it from outside, and those errand boys we call the leaders, because those are the only people the system actually benefits. But when we talk about this system, people think we are, it is so theoretical that you don't understand what we are talking about. Let me break it down. The stronghold that makes you not to have economic development and infrastructural development in Nigeria, it is as a result of let's come together that British did in 1914. Because they noticed that once we bring these people together, there is no way they will work together. Hence, they actually talk about oil and water mixing together because of tribal problem. Because they know historically there has been tribalism amongst the people who live in that area. Hence, they try to claim they are unifying them forcefully. They never actually not. They never, it's not. They never actually You never gave your consent for you to be unified with other people. They did it anyway. But not just that they did it. This system is actually controlled by bureaucrats, people who make decisions on your behalf. They control every decision makings. and you can never see it coming. Your leaders are basically not in charge because IMF is in charge, World Bank is in charge because of the loan they are taking from them, and they are embezzling this money. And the Nigeria's constitution also made it available that the leaders must be held accountable for every action. When Nnamdi Kanu rose up to actually call all these leaders to account for their action, they actually saw him to be a terrorist. They named him terrorist immediately because you can't actually rise up to challenge this status quo that is oppressing you and taking everything that belongs to you. It will be a bad business for them. So hence Nnamdi Kanu went to court yesterday, and the outcome of the court, things that I actually witnessed that does not add up. A witness being masked, a witness being masked inside the court. I know it can be allowed within judicial system on a very, very special circumstances, because a witness that is masked, even to an extent that the person that they are testifying against does not recognize whom they are, so they can alter the integrity of that testimony, because he could be anybody who will just be masked and be told what to say. And of course, there are marks. The defendant will not or will not notice who is behind the mask, that is talking jargon that does not might not even be connected to his activities. Those are the intricacies. One of the intricacies that is actually, you should consider when you see a witness being masked. We know they talk about safety and security. The last time we checked, Nnamdi Kanu is not a murderer. Nnamdi Kanu does not unalive anybody. What he called was for his people to be free. That's what he actually called for. What he called was for the protection of his people, which the political leaders undermine his call because they believe that nobody voice will be able to, count. As long as they are involved and they are in charge, no one has right to speak or to cry. That's why they had to apprehend him, to make sure that no one rises up against the bad governance. We should be accountable to the people as stipulated in Nigeria Constitution under the law called karma. And not only under the law called karma, and also the law of what is it called? Um, is it tort? Tort. I think the law called thought. So the leaders must be held accountable for their actions. So when you call out leaders for their decisions and the things that they have done, you are not being disrespectful. You are not being forward. You are actually doing what a good citizen of a country should be doing. But in the situation of Nigeria, just like we know now, Very Dark Man is in EFCC facility. We know exactly the reason why he went there, because he spoke against the gang up against the Igbos, the conspiracies against the Igbos in Lagos State. But I'm surprised that he's been there, he never noticed it. He only noticed it now. But as long as he recognized that there is a conspiracy to make sure that they stigmatize and violate the Igbos in Lagos. He made reference of e-money who was spraying, pounds and dollars or pounds, and he stepped on naira. They call it naira mutilation. But he also made reference of is it Okoya or Okowa, a Yoruba man whom their family member did the same thing, real violation of naira, and then the law protected him because the law have eyes. They can see who is who. They can see people who are godfathers, who borrow money to the presidents. They can see that. Those are what he made reference of. That is the reason why it's not even up to 24 hours. They picked up Very Dark Man in GT Bank because he spoke. He said that he now believes that the Igbos are really being attacked in Lagos, and there is a concerted effort to make sure that Igbos are violated in Lagos. Just because of this word he said. That is the reason why Very Dark Man is in, in jail today in the EFCC facility. I'm telling you. But those of you, some of you who are called Ratel, or you don't even know why you are the person you are following is is arrested, because he recognized that Igbos are being marginalized and Igbos are being treated bad in Lagos. The videos I made, it's in my page on Facebook. I will still post it on YouTube after this program so that you will see exactly where all these things started. When you speak the truth to power in Nigeria, the power will actually fight back. That's what is happening to Very Dark Man. The reason why all the ones that he has been speaking about, it is not actually hitting the nail to, it is not something that will speak the truth to power. It is, they see it as nonchalant. But immediately when he talked about the truth, about stigmatization and the marginalization of Igbos and victimization of Igbos in Lagos, Very Dark Man becomes their target. That is Nigeria for you. In case if Very Dark Man, you will see this video. This is what I have made video to tell you from the beginning. This Nigeria, you are trying to, you think there is something that will still come out of it. Eventually, you are basically wasting your time, because the forces that is holding Nigeria down can never allow a change or arise anybody of honor to come out and expose the secret agendas and the bad governance that is actually happening in Nigeria. You will be the problem. You will be called aggressor. You will be stigmatized. You will be put down. That is the system that Nigeria is running on. Once the reason why they will always leave you to go up and down, do your stuff, because you never hit the nail, the hammer on the nail. You just did. That's why they remembered you. That's the way it works. Welcome to it. This is exactly what Nnamdi Kanu is facing, because he actually hit the hammer on the nail direct. He spoke truth to power. That's why he is being tried, and they are looking for every possible means to attribute everybody's crime to him. Bringing a masked witness to testify against him, which is weird. So how will you now determine the integrity of the testimony? If the person is masked, who will determine whether or not this person have access to information concerning Nnamdi Kanu if the person is masked? Now kept to the interrogation. The interrogation was actually good by the defendant lawyer or attorney. So now the questions that was asked to the witness was so, you know, those questions, the way he answered them was so funny. The way he answered those questions was so funny because it is an evidence that Nigeria will actually take you in due to offense which they have not ascertained any evidence against you. They will just take you in, even though they have no concrete or solid evidence against you. But they will take you in and they will jail you in arbitrarily just because you spoke about something that you are not supposed to speak about. Let us actually reflect on the cross examination of this witness. Let's reflect on that. Yeah, let's reflect on that. So, number one is that the DSS witness linking Nnamdi Kanu agitation with Simon Ekpa. That is something that is laughable. Something that is laughable. Let's actually, relate to that before we come to, or we'll talk about it after actually reading through the witness and the interrogation. Now, cross-examination, Gabi, I believe, is the attorney of Nnamdi Kanu, or the defendant. Did you take my client's statement with or without his lawyer? Witness, his statement was taken without his lawyer. Violation. Number one violation. Nnamdi Kanu is a kind of incapacitated in a situation where that is also a situation where we talk about the activities of other people who follows him or the activities of whether his lawyer is there or not. Now he is in a solitary confinement. If you go to take his statement, you must make provision, give him option. Are you going to give your statement here, or do you need a legal representative before I take your statement? You will not force them to give a statement under duress because you are violating their constitutional right to fair hearing and the legal, access to legal, representatives. That is number one. Taking the statement from a client, from a defendant without, in the absence of their legal representatives. Now, that is number one violation of the right of Nnamdi Kanu. Now, Agabi, from the video evidence where you, the person interrogating him, from the video evidence where you, the person interrogating him, sorry, I was among. So it was not only one person. Agabi, did you appear in the video? No. He never appeared in the video, but he claimed he was among those interrogating him. He never appeared in the video. So if you are interrogating somebody, you actually never appeared in the video. It's possible, yes. We can actually, talk about that because you can put a camera in front of the person and you are interrogating the person from behind. You never appeared in the video. And secondly, determine whether there will be a discrepancies in your claim. Because if you never appeared in the video, how are we going to now know you are the one that is interrogating the defendant? Secondly, now, Agabi, what was your assessment hold on, to arrest, okay, Agabi asked what was your assessment specifically. Witness said to arrest Nnamdi Kanu and bring him to Abuja and interview him. That's what he said. Agabi, apart from the defendant, did you obtain statement from others? Witness personally? No. Agabi, what was your okay? He said no. Agabi, at the time of the of arrest, you withdrew from him. All witness said yes. Where are those? Where those all? Okay, were those all his personal properties? The witness said yes. Now the lawyer asked again, are there other items that haven't been presented, item considered offensive? Witness responded, my lord, the items might not be offensive. Sorry for that. So now he responded for the sake of this. We lost some signal, some reception, for a few seconds. So he said that those items were not considered offensive. The items considered offensive, he said, the items might not be considered offensive, but the action behind it. Now, I believe they might be talking about broadcasting items or something like, I don't know what is this items. But if the item is not considered offensive, if the item is not contraband, if the item is not, any dangerous to the public, why are you talking about motive behind the item? How are you able to, in fact, notice or understand or extract the motive behind the item from the defendant? That is actually bringing something like, it is immaterial. This is just basically immaterial in the court of law. That is confiscation of somebody's belongings just because you can. That's what they did there. Now, let's continue. 1 moment. Let's find out more. Okay. Now, another one. Answer. Okay, the lawyer instructed him to answer yes or no. The lawyer answered me, I instructed answer yes or no. Did you analyze the items? The witness say, my task wasn't to analyze the item. If your task wasn't to analyze the item. How were you able to ascertain that the item or the motive behind the item, because item cannot have a motive, it is only the defendant that has a motive. Did you analyze the item? You are talking about motives behind an item. It doesn't make sense. Immaterial, evidence. Now, so you didn't analyze it? That's the question. I didn't except his phone. He didn't analyze the item except his phone. So he analyzed Nnamdi Kanu's phone. Now let's find out. Is the phone analysis in evidence, witness, status, Obido Subansu? No, because it was considered immaterial. It was considered immaterial. Okay? You analyze the immaterial stuff, and the one you claim the motive behind it, you never analyzed it. So let's find out. Do you agree most of the items have lost their use? I don't understand that word. Fervent, it's over 10 years. He said yes. So the item confiscated from Nnamdi Kanu, some of them are basically damaged, and some of them might not actually be, returned to him in an event where he wins the case. Therefore, the case must cater for that, which they have taken from him and never returned it. So, let's continue. Agabi, in 10 years since you first arrested him, have you seen anyone who claimed he committed a crime? Have you seen anyone who claimed he committed a crime? Witness say, I did it. I did not. Case closed. Okay? Now, Agabi, you said you find him with someone. Did you find any incriminating Did you find any incriminating on the person? The witness said no. The lawyer said, did you confirm the person as facilitator of terrorism? The witness said no. Case closed. Agabi, did you find any instrument of violence on my defendant? Agabi, none. The witness said none. Okay. Did you contact any of the persons the defendant named in his statement as working with him? Witness say he didn't name anybody. He didn't name anybody. Okay. The lawyer also again, is it only one statement that was obtained from him? The witness responds, in Lagos, yes, but in Abuja, other statements we obtained. Okay. Agabi, apart from the defendant, is there any other person standing in trial with him? Witness say, I don't know. First response, I don't know. So let's find out if it will end where in I don't know. Agabi, I put it to you that the entire nation, this defendant is the only person standing trial for the agitation of Biafra. Witness, I don't have information to that. All I know is I did the arrest in Lagos. Agabi, from your knowledge, the agitation does not have any other person apart from the defendant. Witness says certainly not correct. Agabi, so who are the rest? Witness, from the news on social media, I know Simon Ekpa. This is where it gets more interesting. Now, from the news of social media, I know Simon Ekpa. Now, Nigeria arrested Nnamdi Kanu with absolutely no material evidence connecting him to any crime or terrorism or anything that they have actually attributed to his name. There is no material evidence. Nigeria is looking at what people are doing in social media to use it to judge Nnamdi Kanu. Hey, what a nation. What a nation. This is literally disgusting for you to say this is a nation. This is a nation. No wonder some media houses like BBC is always saying Simon Epa, the leader of IPOB, the person who actually, the successor or representative of Nnamdi Kanu. Now we understand exactly the reason why they have been attributing everything to making it that Ekberima works within Nnamdi Kanu. And now you will understand the reason why Ekberima will always say that he is Nnamdi Kanu's disciple. He always named Nnamdi Kanu in every of his activities. Now you get the point. Because so many of you, this is the reason why you people are in perpetual captivity in Nigeria. This is the reason why. Because so many of you does not read in between the line to understand the exact, the games that is being played with your mind. Simon Epa was actually there to make sure, because they understand that a leader of organization can take responsibility of the actions of their members if these organizations is basically, based on the law of the organization, actually. Based on the law of the organization, it is part of the law called Kama in Nigeria. Based on the law of the organization, the code of conduct of the organization. But now, what the law refused to understand is that Simon is not a member of organization. Simon is not a member of the organization. Had it been that the people or the members of the organization began to do what Simon did, it will still have limitation to attribute them to Nnamdi Kanu. Do you know why? Nnamdi Kanu will be seen as someone who is incapacitated, for lack of a better word. I don't know what other name that you can call that scenario where you are doing things I never asked you to do and attributing it to my name, even though I was incapacitated. I might be in the hospital, I might be in the prison, I might be in a place where I cannot also speak for myself or address your stupidity. So there is nothing under the law that will attribute the activities of Simon Epa to Nnamdi Kanu. If Simon, mostly when Simon is not the member of the organization led by Nnamdi Kanu, which the other leaders of the organization actually made it clear. They distance themselves from Simon Epa. So anybody who is invoking Simon Epa is just a non-entity who does not know anything else to use to defend their claim against Nnamdi Kanu. So they have to come up with one nonchalant, statement talking about what they heard in social media. Simon Epa is a person a government in exile. Nnamdi Kanu never established any government in exile. Simon Ekpa is a grown man. He can be, he is actually responsible for his utterances, his words, his actions and inactions. He takes responsibility. He's not under the control of chain of command of Nnamdi Kanu. He is a grown man doing what he feel like he could do or he was sent to do. So there is no way under any law will that be attributed to the existing case of Nnamdi Kanu. It cannot be. This is not a corporate where directors will be responsible for every employee's eh, um, activities. This is not a corporate. It's only in a corporate, space. An employer is actually liable to the mistakes or every activities of employee inside or within the job space, not in their personal life, right? That's when we talk about the law called CAMA, CAMA in Nigeria. The law named CAMA in Nigeria. That's when you talk about that law. And that law also stipulates on how the Nigerian leaders will be held accountable. So it is called Companies and Allied Matters Act. That's what it says. It says that Companies and Allied Matters Act, CAMA, outline the responsibility of company directors and officers, including liability for action taken in their capacity as leaders. Nnamdi Kanu never had or chose Simon to be his deputy, right? So he never chose Simon to be his deputy. Simon is just doing his own thing for his selfish aggrandizement. And that's why he went ahead to establish government in exile. So, therefore, this thing of mentioning Simon Ekpa in the case of Nnamdi Kanu is actually, if the law of the court or the court considers that, that is what you call a an injustice. An injustice, which will violate Section 36 of 1999 Constitution. Because, first of all, taking witness, the so-called interrogating Nnamdi Kanu without his lawyer, violation Section 36 of 1999 Constitution. Them now attributing what someone did when you are incapacitated or in similar situation, it is violating that Section 36 of 1999 Constitution. And now attributing someone's action to you when that person has no business with your organization that you lead. You violate Nnamdi Kanu's right. Even under Kama. Because now when we talk about tort law, TORT, under Nigeria tort law, leaders can be held liable for negligence or misconduct if their actions lead to harm or damage, even if they are incapacitated. Now, they talk about the action of the leader, not the action of observer or one criminal who rise up and use the name of the leader. Do you see the differences between, in between? So there is no way everything Nigeria did in order to use Simon And the BBC using them, pushing this agenda every day. Simon, the IPOP defender, Simon, Nnamdi Kanu's what do you call apostle or disciple? Simon this, Simon that, promoting that to the public. The law actually does not support their claim. Let me make this statement again. Let me make this statement again under thought law. Under thought law, the leaders can be held liable for negligence or misconduct if their action lead to harm or damage. Their action, not the action of observer, not the action of employee, not the action of their member, their own action, even if they are incapacitated. Then we talk about partnership law, because I'm trying to find out where these can correlate in law court. When we talk about partnership law, in partnership law, all partners may be held liable for the action of any partner conducted in the course of the partnership's business. That is partnership law. Is there any way Nnamdi Kanu and Simon Ekpa is partnering in Biafra restoration or in Biafra movement or in IPOB leadership? The answer is no. The miscreant just rose up from nowhere immediately when Nnamdi Kanu became incapacitated. That's when the miscreant rose up and started defrauding people of their money. From there, he got carried away. He got carried away because he's a criminal. And getting carried away, he went overboard. Because for him to get more money, he need to he need to actually kill people and show the world that he is killing people, so that the people who will actually fund him will continue to fund him. And that is exactly how he met his Waterloo. Because if he's not showing you that he is unaliving people, there is no way you will fund him. Some of those criminals who support him, you are funding him because he tell you he will do this, he will do that. And he did some. That's why you funded him. So now let's actually see the accountability in the specific law like karma and tort law. The responsibility and liability of leaders in organization. For details guidance, consulting the legal professional is advisable in the Nigeria Constitution. In the Nigeria Constitution. So that person who interrogated Nnamdi Kanu without his lawyer violate this law, karma and tort law. Now, and now there is no law, there is no specific law or article in Nigeria Constitution that address the liability of leaders for the action of their organization's member. In an event, if there is a member of IPOL who did one or two, there is no law in Nigeria that will attribute that to Nnamdi Kanu, except if they want to walk off the book, like they did in extraordinary rendition of Nnamdi Kanu, which nullifies every claim against him because you have no actually jurisdiction. There is no jurisdiction that Nigeria have in order to establish this case in Nigeria, because you cannot commit a crime and to come to say you are defending the law. This is it. This is it. Guarantees, which is when we talk about Section 36, it guarantees the right to a fair hearing, which will indirectly support accountability in action taken by the leaders, not action taken by someone else, right? So, if you think that Simon Ekpa will be attributed to Nnamdi Kanu, you are a dreamer, a serious dreamer. If it happens in the court of Nigeria, which it does not have any Nigeria constitution that stipulate that, it is actually a miscarriage of justice, for lack of a better word. So that thing is nullified. Those who think that that will happen, forget about it. It cannot happen. We know Nigeria does not follow their rules, the law of their constitution, yes, but we are awake now. We know the law. We've seen, it is actually, constitution is basically what every judge will use to judge every matter. Are they going to now amend the constitution in order to attribute the activities of a Experiment in Finland to Nnamdi Kanu? The answer is no, except if they amend the constitution today. And if they amend it today, it will only take, it will only take action in the next case, not in this case anymore. Because this case and any so-called violation it should be in line with the constitutional, availability or constitutional. It should be in line with the constitution of Nigeria that is already available, not the one that is going to be available in future. Now, when we talk about this section of the Nigeria Constitution, Section 14 of Nigeria Constitution, Article 2, this states that the security and welfare of the people shall be primarily purpose of government, implying accountability of the leaders to their constituents. Did you see now the duty of the government? The duty of the government, they are accountable to their constituents. So you have to tell government, Buhari, Tinubu, what you promise or what you're supposed to be doing as a leader, you're not doing it. You can call him a thief because everything that he's supposed to be doing, everything that he promised, he's not doing it, and he is embezzling money. You can actually ask them questions because they are supposed to be accountable. The leaders must be accountable. How many times have you called the leaders to account for their activities? What they use is they use the barrel of gun to shut you down. That's what they have done. Violation of Section 14, Article 2 of Nigeria Constitution. That's what they've been doing. Lekki Tollgate massacre. It is violation of Nigeria Constitution. They did it. They went free. No international community actually talked about it, but this was live in front of the camera. The whole world watched it. The same reason why they claimed it was important for them to take out Mama Gaddafi. The same reason why they claimed it was important for them to take out Thomas Sankara, Kwame Nkrumah. So this is the same thing that they watched, the whole world watched in Lekki Tollgate massacre. Stopping people from calling leaders to account, freedom of expression, freedom of movement. They stopped those. They violate Nigeria constitution. They violate human rights. No one is talked about it. But Traore, it becomes a problem because he is selling his gold for profit for the country. Because this is exactly how it works. Because they have nothing. They have something from the government. Government grant them access to the resources that belongs to you and I. They exploit the resources. The government does what they want with the remainings that's supposed to be used to service you. The government can embezzle it in Nigeria without no one calling them to account as stipulated in section 14, article 2 of Nigerian constitution. Now, Section 15 of Nigeria Constitution, which address the need to combat corruption and promote transparency, reinforcing the expectation of accountability among leaders. Did you see that? Transparency. Trans what? Parency. How many times have you seen transparency in Nigeria leadership space? How many times? They will go and take a loan, make decision, introduce monetary policies, say claim and stimulate the economy, collect more tax. What do they do with it? Cut government spending. Where are those spending money that is supposed to be used to spend, such as cutting government spending in or subsidy? Why? Where did you allocate those money? The answer is no one knows because you are not transparent. The government is not transparent, then Nnamdi Kanu now become your problem in Nigeria. Nnamdi Kanu become your problem in Nigeria when your government is screwing you over on a daily basis. You don't see that as a problem. Those Benin people, those Edo people, and those Yoruba people, and some Igbos, Efulefus, who will say Nnamdi Kanu this and Nnamdi Kanu that. You haven't seen, or those South people, so-called South. Nnamdi Kanu becomes your problem, but your government is violating your right and your constitution on a daily basis. You never say anything. Nnamdi Kanu, who understand his right and the constitution of Nigeria, who take advantage of his right within the constitutional democracy, now becomes your problem because that's how I'm saying it. In line with the constitutional provision. So it is not about me being biased or anything. This is saying it based on what your book say in Nigeria. That's what I'm saying. So if Nigeria want to combat corruption, they should combat corruption without looking at faces. They should combat corruption without looking at faces who is who. Nnamdi Kanu, the only thing that we are expecting from the Nigeria court is discharged and acquitted and compensated for the violation of his right. That's the only thing that is obtainable by the Nigeria court on this case of Nnamdi Kanu. Anything outside of that is travesty of justice and cannot stand. But we know that those handling the case, I can imagine or I suspect that those handling the case are learned and they have moral values and they have what it takes to understand and read the Constitution of Nigeria or work in line with the Constitution and understand the right of individuals in a circumstances such as that. Facebook is actually working against us, but that's by the way. It will not stop us from continuing. They don't want the truth to be spoken, but we continue to speak it. Those of you who believe that, fighting for your right in Africa is a crime, and that crime because the Western imperialists call it a crime, you should rethink. And those of you who are threatening countries in Africa that you will bring war to them, you do to them what you did to Gaddafi and Sankara. There is the one, I'm talking, or we're actually having some, talk on TikTok, talking about how, you know, one white idiot talking about how they will invade African countries and then we will show them what we have. There is no country. If Africa basically want to be invaded, they will be invaded. If America cannot defeat Africa in battle except if one Africa sell out. Because if you close your air, actually, if you close you don't grant them access of air on your, air route, you don't give them access to military base, where will they attack from? That is the reason why the people talks about unity. Where will they attack from? Nowhere. Are they going to drop their people in Sores? They cannot fight a ground war. That is for sure. So that is exactly the most important thing we need to know. That will give you a strong heart to continue to basically fight for what is rightfully yours. All those puppet presidents that are all over the place doing the bidding of imperialists. The time has come for them to learn from Ibrahim Traore and follow the footsteps of the man who knows the road. So this is how it works. Until we meet again. Bye for now.